And good evening, East Africa. Welcome to yet a brand new week of The Desk. I tell you, this one is going to be an exciting one. You better sit back, relax, better lean forward, or even stand up, because The Desk is on your tele. Now more than ever, I am yours truly, Shadrach Shagaf Kisame, and of course we're broadcasting here at Nile Avenue at Nakasero Hill, UBC headquarters. Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for keeping yourselves logged on to U24 and The Desk in particular, the continent's leading intellectual platform, actually the highest platform for solution finding. And talking about solutions, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, my guest, we're going to be finding a little bit of solutions here and there that are tackling the youth. Now, are you a youth out there, or you are a parent to a youth, or you're actually a friend to a youth? Now, sit back, relax, better lean forward, or even stand up, because the man in the chair. Now, this man actually has a lot of controversy around him. Every time you mention the name Simon Senyonga, from certain circles, and when I say certain circles, I mean the remnants, he's highly credited. But now, to us as social media or media analysts, we tend to look at him as a very controversial man. But however, Simon Senyonga is on The Desk tonight. Welcome to the show, Simon.
Thank you very much, Shadrach.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
How have you been?
Very awesome. The Lord is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tell me, how is your prophet?
He's very awesome. He's prospering, he's increasing. Yeah.
That man said his shoes are very expensive.
Yeah, I mean, just like mine.
Just like yours.
When your son and father and the son are just one and the same.
Correct.
Yes.
Actually, before we even dive into the discussion, a video of you went very viral. You saying that your prophet is higher than Elijah, higher than Moses. Do you know who those guys are?
Yeah, I know who they are, and I'm sure they also know who the prophet is. Certainly they are not. Certainly they are not insecure like some average Ugandans who may not really know what is happening.
Correct.
Or some people who are certainly, ignorant and afraid of who the prophet is. But again, the discussion was so long, and I think that's what the media prefer to clip out, just for the sake of controversy. Just like a lot of our average media personalities prefer controversy, and they prefer, that sort of thing as a path of making news. I
agree. Now, tonight, actually, we are not talking the Bible or anything like that. We're talking about the youth elections. Correct. You're a prominent lawyer. You're a city lawyer. I respect you for actually breaking down hard things to a layman's understanding. Now, let's just talk about the youth elections. Whether you're vying or not, that's a discussion
for another day.
But let's just talk about them. What do you think? Do you think there is light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes, I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. I think my consistent position has been that the young people of this nation need to position themselves rightly in the various spaces to take over leadership. Because you see, they cannot keep on bemoaning the system and what the government has failed to do. I think they need to stand up to the occasion.
Correct.
And they realize that actually they have a stake in this nation, so it's not going to be anybody else to fight for that stake. They have to secure their stake. That's by taking over leadership and participating aggressively in the national agenda that is going to alter the economic, social, and political perspective.
Correct.
So that's extremely important for them. So again, there's depending on how you see it. And you see, mine as a role as being a leader, it's to really cast light where there is darkness. That actually there is a state of despondency with which very many young people are laying back in uncertainty and all this fear that is going on. And you see, because of that, they have decided not to rise up to participate. But even when they have risen up to participate, I think there have been a couple of barriers here and there.
Correct.
Which is really the key perspective of my message of creating safe spaces for young people in the different areas around the nation, around the world.
Simon, I want to talk about the barriers. The different barriers that have been, because me personally as Shadrach, if let's say I would want to stand maybe for Lugogo village as a youth leader, there's nothing out of it. At the end of the day, I have a family, I have a wife, I have kids that I have to feed. But since there's nothing out of it, I am not attracted. There's nothing. These people are not incentivized. What are we doing to make this space conducive, and also maybe to catapult love and also attract these guys to come in?
I think incentivization is extremely important for anybody who is pursuing any sort of job. I think that's why they wake up every morning and they have hope that when they get back, they will have some money. But you see, incentivization must be distinguished from manipulation. What is happening today, especially to the young people, is manipulation.
Incentivization should be
distinguished from
manipulation. Okay.
Yes. Some people think they are being incentivized, but actually they are being manipulated. So you say, I'll come to you and I tell you, you know, there's this selective position here, and if you support us, then, you know, we shall give you some money. That's not incentivizing you. That's actually you, as I've already said, that your last bullet in your gun, if this is a rifle and you're going to shoot,
correct,
your last bullet is your vote. Now, if you're going to pursue this election, you know, expectations have to be managed. You see, you're going to take on a public office. The first attitude you have to posture yourself with is not one of money. Now, because of that whole commercialization, not only of the politics, but even the brains of the young people,
attitude, many
of them are not willing even to pursue paths which are greater than the current ambitions. Because you see, if you know that you're having an ambition, say, of becoming president of this nation as a young person, you will know which strategic networks to build. Some of them are not going to come so easy. Correct. Some of them are not going to come because of the money. They are going to come because of the way you've positioned yourself in the different spaces and how you've build strategic networks and partnerships for the sake of your future. Then the final aspect I can look at is that many of the young people, what you call incentivization, many of them actually, that clouds their perspective towards building sustainable legacies. Because many of them only think about, you know, the food for today and, you know, let me go with that. But there has to be something greater.
No, Simon,
to live for.
Simon, you're talking and someone out there is saying, because for you at least you have money. These people have nothing to eat.
Yeah, I think that should not be, number one, a problem. You see, you cannot punish somebody because they are rich. You know, it's like being born with a golden spoon in your mouth. Correct. You cannot punish me because I was born from a rich family. Neither should I punish you because you're born from a poor family. Yes. I think there needs to be a culture in this nation whereby we are judging people based on the quality and that's what Martin Luther King said. That he hopes that one day his children will not be judged based on the color of their skin. Yes. All right. Yes. But the quality of the personalities and the quality of the brains and, you know, what they are able to bring on the table, not because of their backgrounds, because you see, you may never choose whether you are born in a rich family or not. Correct. All right. Luck and opportunity has found you at that particular place. But you see, then how does a young person position themselves to come out of this state of poverty and despondency? So it shouldn't be about saying, you know, I am poor, you speak like that because I'm rich. By the way, it's because I am rich that actually I am the best person who is positioned to advocate for the poor. For the poor. Why? Because it has been a journey. It hasn't been that I've been born rich. Okay. Right? But it's because there has been a journey that I've chosen to pursue, and because of that journey, I am hoping that we can display a quality of leadership for the young people that they can believe in, that they can have hope in, that they can choose every day to wake up and they believe that life can be distinguished.
Actually, before we go for a short break, Simon, don't you think we need people like you? Maybe we need to have a space or seminars or something that maybe they should do for people like you to put up your stories, because someone will be like, no, I've seen Simon's life from campus. You know, he's been in politics, he's done this, he's always been putting on nice suits, he's always been doing this, he now has a nice car, and they do not know where it comes from. Do you think maybe a space or a platform should be available for people like you to inspire people?
I think those platforms have to be there, all right? The platforms for inspiration and speech. But you see, I think we have a multitude of those. I think we need to get the ground and we get ourselves, you know, roll up your sleeves and get to work. Correct. Don't just keep on talking, because you see, you can have a plethora of speeches, you can listen to all manner of motivation. That was my life, by the way. When I was still a young man in university, I used to listen to a lot of people. Zig Ziglar, Ethan Mussolini, Norman Vincent Peale, all these motivational speakers, many of them. Yes. But you see, all that only helped me to get mental knowledge. Now you see, you can have mental knowledge, but then what you actually need is to put that mental knowledge into action. Correct. So that you can be productive. I think that's what the president has kept on saying. I listened to his speech yesterday when he was talking about why we should have the elderly in parliament. He gave an address concerning the reason as to why the elderly should represent in the parliament, and he said one of those is to ensure that, number one, there is foresight for the young people. All right. Number two is to make sure that they maximize the experience and expertise and exposure of the elderly within the parliament. But then the other thing is that you know, you should have a cash economy where there is active production of the people, meaning that they should participate in business production, they should participate in active entrepreneurship, they should participate in innovation and technological approaches towards the modernization of the economy. Correct. And because of that, then you're going to have many young people and the nation becoming active participants in the global conversations. You know, Simon, the reason as well, even on the desk or as a platform, why I usually never have old people is because he's going to tell you, I got my first job while I was still at campus.
These days they never source at campus.
Mm.
I said, I started my business with 100,000.
Yes.
Right now, Simon, they give you 100K. It's not even enough for a meal for two people. So I think some of those people, their ideologies are not as realistic to date.
I think, well, number one, there's a lot for us to learn from them. By the way, some of the values that we may despise, if not given objective perspective, then you can actually miss out a lot. I'll tell you, my first job, I was a volunteer. I was earning 100,000 as a volunteer. That was really like a stipend that I was given per month. That was my, so I'm not an old person. That was my experience.
Yes.
Number two, one of the things that very many young people want to live, especially the millennials of this time, is that they don't want to accept or appreciate the essence of mentorship.
Correct.
And you see, the older people that we have are actually, they have an institutional memory of where this nation has come from, where it is now, and perhaps some advice where it has to go. Now you see, because of that lack of mentorship, many of the young people would rather pursue paths which are comfortable. They don't want to push themselves. They don't want to disrupt the situations that they are in. And they rather despise the older people, thinking that they can just chat a way forward. I really, because I'm a believer and I believe in the Bible, it says, forget not the foundations of old. All right. Now these foundations, depending on where they are taking you, again, you have to be objective, and you don't need to be curtailed in. Yes. I think there are very many older people out there who need to still guide the young people. Yes. As long as they're not limiting them to their older perspective. Because you see, right now we are in 2020. We are not in 1962. Correct. Neither are we in 2000. Correct. Now, because of that, there is a different approach towards life. Then it was analog. Today it's digital. All right. Then probably there was a lot of strictness and a lot of conservatism. Today there is a lot of liberality and free-spirited young people. Correct. Then probably it had to be a systematic approach of growth. Today somebody probably want to say they just pop up. Popcorn generation. Exactly, popcorn generation kind of thing. So I think it's for us to know how we can leverage our abilities right now, as opposed to downgrading what the older people can actually offer. Correct. We need to work harmoniously and actually recognize that everybody has a contribution that they have to make. Just like the young people have to contribute to the older people, because as young people we have a stake and we have to guard those older people. Correct. Simon, let me go for a short break, but when we come back, you mentioned something very important, and you're like, these platforms where people are speaking have been availed, but they have not turned them into action. Now that action is what I want us to talk about in the second segment. Now do not go where you are, still on the continent's leading intellectual platform, actually the highest platform for solution finding, the desk. Do not go where we are, still at Nile Avenue, and we are coming back. And welcome back, and I'm afraid if you just joining us, you missed the very first segment of this very lovely episode of The Desk. Now we are at Nile Avenue, Nakasero. We're actually in the heart of Kampala at UBC headquarters. My name is Shadrach Shagaf Kisame, and we are still with Simon Senyonga. I'm telling you, this man has his facts on hand, and you can never actually put him in a corner. But you can follow this very lovely discussion on social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Do it for Shadrach Kisame and do it for U24 Television. We are still with Mr. Simon. Now, if you have a relative in the diaspora and they are not live on U24, call them up and tell them that The Desk is live on Shadrach Kisame's YouTube. Mr. Simon, if someone wants to find you, are you on social media? Yes, I am on social media. And they can just log in and use, I don't know, I'm not so accurate with the hashtags or the whatever they are called. But on Facebook, Simon Senyonga. On Twitter, Simon Senyonga. I think it must be at Simon Senyonga. Correct. 3 or 1, something like that. Then I'm on Instagram. I don't know which other social media. WhatsApp. Mobile money. In fact, they should participate. I like mobile money. I like the mobile money aspect. Actually, before we even go back to the actions, what do you think about where we went to school with people? The next time you see on social media someone sending you a request and they are called Tina Tan. Do you think what do you think about that? Where people disguise? Because personally, Shadrach, I believe social media is for maybe marketing yourself or your brand or something like that. What do you think this has an impact on the youth? I think one of the causes, I'll just give you two perspectives from my side. Number one, the biggest crisis that affects humanity, and and especially the young generation, is the self-identity crisis. When you don't know who you are, what you believe in, and what your purpose is at the end of the day, and what kind of legacy you want to leave now.
Correct.
Because of that, you want to sort of brand yourself based on some phenomenon out there which is trending and popular, and somehow you think when you give yourself another name, then you can become much more popular. Now again, other people have reasons as to why they do that. Probably if you're going to be internationally competitive and you're going to be having a cross-border approach towards your branding, then perhaps you want to adopt a name, or you want to adopt an approach that actually can enable other people to be attracted towards your brand.
Okay.
Perhaps some of them want to distinguish their original names from the brands that they're trying to build, perhaps of a particular product. So it has both pros and cons. It has different perspectives towards it.
Okay.
Perhaps it has to be judged on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Let's just slide back into the discussion, because I like to just get a little bit to get what people think, because the youths down there actually listen to us. They listen to us because we are role models, we are leaders, and they actually follow those things. Yeah. So what Simon Senyonga says about Tina Turner for Nabwete Mekate matters a lot. Okay, but sliding back into the action in the discussion. So the platforms are there where people are talking to the youth, but it has taken us so far. So what are some of maybe the quick fixes, 1 or 2, 3 actions that should be put into play maybe?
I think number one, the understanding of the reasons why those platforms are there, that they shouldn't be there for the sake of destroying people's names, maligning people's names, or character assassination. So number one, we must understand the purpose even before we get to the platforms. That why am I getting here? Have a clear vision as to why you're getting there. Beyond just the networking, I think the young people of this nation need to appreciate that actually these platforms are there for us to use them as a platform, number one, to talk about serious societal issues. Number two, to position ourselves to be aggressive disruptors of the economy by giving viable solutions, whether economical, political, and social. Number two, there need to be a quick fix on the internet penetration in this nation.
That's
now
correct.
You realize that Uganda, at least 30% do we have internet penetration within the entire Uganda. Now because of that, you're talking about technological growth and booming within Uganda. How many telecommunication companies can reach the guy in the farthest place in maybe
Katakwi,
anywhere else? How many telecommunication companies can actually get there? So internet penetration has been very, very limited. And again, because our government has yet fully adopted the use of technology. And what's my justification for making that point? That you can tell the kind and quality of policies that they make. Think about the OTT,
correct,
where you think about taking a particular percentage of money from the young people. The biggest occupants of these platforms are the young people.
Over 80% of the 30%.
The businesses which are on there actually are getting frustrated because somebody has been under lockdown. They cannot be able to afford probably 1,000 per day. So imagine paying 200 shillings per day with limited resources, quite a frustrating economy and all that. But you see, again, I think there has to be a trumpet of hope for them that actually things are getting better and better with the kind of us rising up.
How? Simon, you're rising up, yes. What are you going to do? You're going to wake up, let's say you have a position. How would you advise people who are already there before you get there to deal with this? You talked about internet penetration. Yes, to deal with things like OTT. I even heard there's a bill that is going through where they want to Facebook, they want to tax you. Shadrach, let's say I went live on my Facebook, they want to tax that. If I have a lot of followers, that's a problem. They want to tax that. So talking to someone who is already in office before you actually get there, how should they tackle that?
I think number one, it is for me to distinguish myself from those who have been there before. The distinction between me and them is that I began doing what I intend to do for the future. So what I can only do when I get a platform is for me to amplify and to create more networks and a base for actually new opportunities. Whatever, in my senior 4, I began a platform which was called the Side Knowledge Foundation. Because I knew that I am a leader by birth and by choice of God. Yes, I said I was a head prefect. Then I said, how do I use my abilities then in secondary school to raise up other students in secondary school, equip them with ethical values of what leadership has to be, equip them with the necessary skills that they need to use to maneuver around the world. And how do you build this confidence, self-purpose, self-will, the self-drive within the young person? Now you see that some of the integral parts that actually are missing within the quality and the caliber of the young people that we have. So that was the first thing that I did. Now talk about the new platform that I'm going to get. It can only amplify that. As a lawyer, I'm a member of a prestigious professional association called the Network of Public Interest Lawyers. Now that has amplified my legal abilities to use them. You see, without anybody, without any evolution of anybody, I have been able to move around media stations. You know, one of the things that affects many of our young people is that they are so afraid to try.
Okay, yes.
And you know, the biggest threat to many of them is the fear to begin.
Correct.
As long as you don't begin, you will never begin. The only way you can begin is by
beginning.
So knock at those doors will have to open.
No, look in that camera and tell them the only way to begin is?
It's by beginning. The only way you can begin, actually, the only way you can transform your life is by stepping out and actually, you knock at these doors. I mean, nobody is going to, you know, grant you things in some free way. All right? Nobody is going, no matter even if you're born with a, you know, a silver spoon in your mouth, it will not just be some smooth sail all through life. I think you need to have the young people think very critically. Now, that's an element that lacks the critical thinking. Thinking beyond what you've been presented. That's some of the things that I present to the young people. That how do we expand our critical thinking? How do we look at challenges from a critical perspective and we are much more solution-minded? We just cannot keep on crying about the problems in the nation, the problems of young people.
Actually,
think about solutions.
Yes, actually, Simon, I want as we go for a short break, I want to get your narrative. Your narrative is, yes, government is not doing what it ought to do, maybe on time or something. It's a process. However, the youth also have a role to play. Yes, I get that narrative. But there's someone in Chikuba Mutwe, someone in Chibuli, they have tried all they can. Akubi am a blocker. They tried to take out Mdalagwa Chapati and nothing. Talk to someone like that.
I think number one, they shouldn't lose hope when all that is happening. But also, you know, trying many times and failing doesn't mean that actually you'll never get anything substantive out of your trials. I think some of the people that the young people would love to look up to have had trials and tribulations. I mean, my number one inspiration is my Lord Jesus Christ. I think he went through a life which was tried, which was tested, and at the end of the day, there was a success. He suffered death because of that. Now, well, somebody may say that's so detached and all that. I don't know how to best appeal to them, but I can give them examples they can relate with. Some of the biggest sites they can relate with in Chikubo down there. They don't have the best education.
Correct.
Many of them don't speak English.
Correct.
But they employ us who can speak English.
Yes.
They employ Harvard graduates. They employ the best entrepreneurs, the best economists to do their work. So they shouldn't be discouraged because you see, it's about their particular principles which you cannot evade. And you know, one of those is the principle of the principle of diligence. How diligent are you at your work? What value are you adding to the work that you're having? And then, do you believe in yourself in what you're doing? Because you see, you can tell me that I don't want blanket stories. Somebody telling me I've tried making bricks, I've tried this, everything has failed. That's a blanket discussion. We need to interrogate the underlying challenges and the underlying attitudes and perspectives,
specifically for a case.
Against a case by case basis. Because somebody will tell you that, but they're not diligent at their job. All right, the small money they get, they know they're not doing well. They would rather not save it, but they would rather eat it. They would rather spend it on women or in bars and all that.
Correct.
Because when you read actually, majority of the crime reports by police, the biggest criminals that we have are the young people.
Yes. And
it's various kinds of
Some of these men and women are frustrated. They are frustrated. Frustration actually puts them to a corner that they are left with nothing. So because look at lockdown, for instance, what we just left. Do you know how many millions of youths are in border riding? And you close that, and you do expect no criminality.
I think, you see, nobody brought coronavirus. I would really love to think that the government did what it thinks it's the best in its wisdom to come up with viable,
SOPs,
viable SOPs and all this to guard the people. And I think they did a commendable job to the extent that they did it well. Now, that notwithstanding, you cannot just, again I said, you cannot just keep on crying that things are going bad. You see, wherefore you see, the right attitude for any young person is that where there is a problem, you as a young person need to see a solution. Because the guys that we are praising in the Silicon Valley, in the USA, wherever there has been a challenge, or there has been a disruption in the economy, they come up with a solution. Think about a person like Zuckerberg who sits at Harvard and says, look here, they didn't graduate A+. Or what we call,
first class,
or come lad in having a first class. He didn't graduate that. But he went back and thought about an innovation that can disrupt the economy, network the entire world, and make sure there's conversation going on. That's what he did. Think about the likes of the guys who made this Apple who made all
Yes,
these different platforms.
Yes, correct.
Think about how much money they are making, right? Because of realize that there's a challenge. Think about the young person who is, think about making maths and all these things. Well, the other thing is that many of our young people don't want to read extensively and expansively to increase their knowledge. And you see, knowledge cannot just come by only study, but also by exposure and experience.
Correct.
So how many of the young people are taking off time to add an extra knowledge to themselves, not by way of just graduation? Because by the way, even if you're talking about graduation, talking about there is no money for university, there are free courses on internet that you can pursue, and you get actually you as competitive as another person.
Correct.
Many of them are not getting the right friends who can show them the right networks.
Correct.
So you see, you say a young man say, you're Shadrach, I'm Simon, and when you see Simon, you say, man, I only see him as some ATM, some money minting machine. So every time you meet me, it's all about the money. No experience. You don't want to sit down with me and ask me, well, how have you done this? How have you done this? What can I learn from you? How can you introduce me to the people,
you know?
Correct. So that I can become a better person. That is a much more valuable asset than the 500,000 I'm going to give you.
Yes.
You eat it will get done. It will not change your life.
Absolutely. Like the wise man says, teach me how to fish, don't give me fish. Now on that point, we're going to go for a short break. When we come back, Simon, you hinted on something very important. It was actually my last question. The education system, how relevant it is, and how much it has helped us and how much it has not. Okay. Now, you are still a lovely audience. Do not go away. We are still broadcasting here at Nile Avenue. The desk actually returns in a bit. Do not touch your dial. Welcome back to the last segment of this very lovely episode of The Desk. It's somewhat very inspirational because the man we have in the chair, he's not a man who went on TV, picked up things, pocketed them, Mahatma Gandhi and all those things. He's a hands-on man. He's seen it all. He's been on the plane, on the bus. Have you been on a border?
That was the majority of my life. I was on a border.
You're on a border.
And even on foot I was there.
Even on foot?
I featured there.
What a black hole, like maybe from town to home.
Many times. I mean, that was my life, I think, until very recently. I used to move around on borders everywhere, walk around. I used to spend a lot of time walking. I would walk when I was staying in my hostel around LDC. And even when I was at university at Makere, I'd move around town just to get exposure, look at how this looks like, and just to know how things move. So now I moved around.
You reminded me, I had a part-time. I went to paramedical school in Mulago here. Yes. So my hostel was Mulago Kasao. So I had a part-time here at Nasa Road. Sometimes I would not have transport.
Yes.
I think like 4 quarters of the week I had no transport. So I would walk at night from Nasa Road to hostel.
Yeah. I think, that's the life. There's a time I had to walk from Katikati to Makerere. And one time
pass by Sheraton boat.
I didn't even pass by Sheraton. So I took this. I feared passing this side. So I passed down, and I didn't know. As I passed behind, Mapera. Behind Mapera, there's a very dangerous street at night.
That street.
Where there are our sisters there. So I went there for exposure.
They started pulling you.
My friend, I lost my phone. I can't just say it here, but it was a very interesting experience. I wouldn't say it off air.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Simon, we're talking about school and everything. I don't know the relevance of the education system. I think you're going to just break it down because I love you for always throwing light on the different perspectives, both sides of the coin. Because someone will tell you it's not relevant, kabisa, not at all. And then maybe sometimes are wrong choices. I did paramedics. I have never worked. And then I don't know. I just want your thought
concerning the education system.
Yes. How relevant or not relevant? Yes.
Now, from the very basic thing, education is relevant. The approach is what makes the distinction. From my knowledge as a lawyer, I will tell you that when you think about education as a system, there are 3 things you have to look out for. Number 1, accessibility. Number 2, availability. Number 3, quality. Is the education available? What kind of education? Is education available? Number 1. That what are we having as a resource base for us to equip our young people to understand what actually the value of education is. You see, you just cannot keep on teaching me everything about anything and you think about the 6 years you spent in secondary school and what you're doing right now. Think about probably the 5, 4, 4, 3 years you spent at paramedical school studying and probably not doing that. So is the kind of education we are giving building up the gift that we have, the passion, the conviction, the gift that a young person has, that you look at a person and you know, this one, their passion is towards music. Don't castigate them, just support them.
Biology, chemistry, wasting time.
Because I'm thinking about why I had to study kinetic energy and all these things.
Molecular density.
I know that, I mean, that kind of thing. But perhaps what we can talk about all that is that it increased my capacity and my retention capacity in the brain and my exposure. Number two, think about accessibility. How accessible is the education? So it's saying that, you know, the ones you're calling the best of the best are the ones who are in Makerere University, Chambogo, Kumba, and all these universities. But you forget that there's a young man who is down there, what's that place? Katwe,
yes.
Who is having very peculiar innovation.
Yes.
You think about a person who is down in the village, or in Chiseka, creatively think about unique abilities, and all they need is a simple boost or an incentive for them to become better. So accessibility of the education, then the quality of education, that's the distinguishing factor. That actually it's a link between the education and its relevance. The quality of education that we are receiving. Is the quality relevant for the place where this nation is going? Technology and innovation are setting. Is the quality of education we are giving to the young people actually still relevant? Do I benefit anything knowing that some white man is the one who discovered River Nile, the source of River Nile? Does it add me any value?
Why the Ngoni migrated from South Africa?
Why did Shaka Zulu fight so and so? Why did who is this guy in Zanzibar who shifted this whatever? I know that kind of nonsense. All that does not benefit us. I think we need something that's actually extremely relevant,
practical.
Yes, extremely practical. Think about something like how about a course which can enable us, position us to make use of social media spaces? All right, the ethics of social media. How do we position ourselves to maximize social media? How does a young person actually think about setting up mentorship classes where young people can have practical approaches and contact with those who have actually been improved. Think about having unique programs for modern agriculture. That my problem as a young person down there is that I only lack a spraying machine to spray my tomatoes, and they're dying because of that. I lack the quality drugs to help or to save my cows or my goats or anything. You know, how about that approach? How about financial literacy? All right, to know that actually this is how I should use my money. This is the best business venture. The other thing is that how do I, for example, because some professions are inevitable, you must know them. How do we put in place, for example, a unique approach of how to see the legal profession? I like what, for example, I participate in. You think about setting up public interest, you know, setting up law clinics, legal aid clinics, where you're having lawyers giving back to the community by offering pro bono services and voluntary services of advice to the young people. Because not every young person can afford a quality lawyer.
Correct.
How about we put a mindset in our young professionals that actually they have a responsibility to give back to these people, to give back to the people who are indigent, the indigent communities.
Actually, Simon, before you leave the public interest law thing, I think we need to do a show specifically for that.
Exactly. So
to teach people about what to do, really, about what to do and how to face the law. I think we should do a show one of these days for that, because you know our time is really, I can't say fast spent, well spent. However, before we finish, you're the president of East Africa, 5 countries combined. What would you do even if it was for 24 hours?
I think number one, I will make sure that I advocate for the East African integration at all its stages, especially even the political stage. Number two, I will make sure
Slow down.
Yes.
People have done this. Do you think they are looking at the political stage?
And you know, it's the most important stage, which we haven't yet. I think that's what the president of this nation is trying so much to push for. That we make sure that, you know what, let's have a common currency. Let's have open borders. Let's have a common political system. Let's have one president for the East African community. And you handle the peculiar differences. And you think
Tanzanians will want, or Kenyans will want?
Well, I think a unique approach to it would be adopting a federal system, whereby you have the different unique, governance structures and the unique governments, federal governments, addressing the needs of the people.
Correct.
At that level. So because it's a federal government understands the needs of the common people at the level where they are. Tanzanians understand the Tanzanians, the Kenyans, the South Sudanese, Burundi, Rwanda, they understand their unique trajectories. And now I think the number 3 would be for advocating for safe digital spaces and adoption of proper and progressive technological cultures and policies. Terminate OTT. Make sure that you increase the internet penetration.
You enter office, His Excellency President Simon, East Africa, immediately terminate audit.
Yes, I think again you can do it depending, you know, we have a progressive approach towards it. I think the other thing that we need to think about is how to handle the different political differences. So in the first 24 hours, I would think about a strong unity platform and a strong unity structure, a system that can enable us to come together and work as one, irrespective of differences and you know, the uniquenesses that we have. I think also above all is to realize the uniquenesses of the different African countries and we leverage on their economic abilities. If I know that Kenya is heavily industrious, let's maximize that.
Yes.
We know that Tanzania is very good with tourism and the like, maximize that. We know that Uganda can be a portal for oral economic hub and agriculture, maximize that. Look at Rwanda, probably again tourism and all that, look at that. Burundi and its uniquenesses, look at that. South Sudan and all that, look at that. So I think those are some of the few things I would do.
One last question before we wind up in 1 minute. Do you think government using taxpayers' money employs people to do what you're doing in form of advisors to the president?
I think
or are they even doing a good job?
Well, it is very hard to measure because they don't advise me and neither do I have access to whether they actually advise. But I think from the reports that we have seen, many of the advisors, I mean most recently, you know, the later Haji Tegesebagala was a presidential advisor, and he said all this time he hardly met the president as a presidential advisor.
So what was he doing?
I mean, I think he was just relaxing and enjoying himself.
We need to check that. All right, thank you very much for coming to the show, Simon.
Thank you very much.
We need to do the law, the public law impression thing.
I'm always available, just a call away.
How is this man just got married recently? How is married life?
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yes.
I need to come up hither like the remnants.
Don't worry. That's why you talk about mentorship. I will mentor you.
All right, now you've been a very lovely audience. Thank you very much for always watching the Desk, the continent's leading intellectual platform. Actually, when you come here, it's an intellectual bombardment. Now, from me and entire U24 management, would like to sign out. Would like to say good night, good luck, adios, and may the Lord God bless this beautiful Uganda.